A new morning consult poll. It looks ahead to Super Tuesday, and Joe Biden admits that Obamacare may not have made sense to most Americans.
Surprise, surprise. We're back with Andrew Feldman, Democratic strategist, and Chrissy Clark, staff writer at The Federalist. This is pretty interesting. We haven't seen a whole lot of polling out of Super Tuesday. The conventional wisdom is that Joe Biden will be dominant among the Super Tuesday states. You look at it, you've got a lot of southern states with a lot of larger African-American populations where he's been strong. So let's put these new numbers out from Morning Consult. It's a very high quality poll typically, and it shows, yes, Joe Biden in the lead at the top, 29%, but Sanders right there, Andrew, nipping at his heels, 25%, and the Super Tuesday states, that's a big deal.
Look, Bernie Sanders is in good position right now. I mean, he is absolutely, and I got to credit him, and I've done it on this show before, something has happened after his heart attack, whether it was he realized that he was, this was a scare, but his persona has changed, and he's connecting with voters in a different way, and I applaud him for being able to do that. But absolutely, he's going to be in this race a long time. What I caution with Super Tuesday polling is that so much is going to change between now and then. Once those first vote happens, if Sanders wins Iowa and then is able to win New Hampshire, this poll looks completely different.
Yeah.
If Biden wins those two, and if then it looks completely different. And what happens if, and I don't think this is going to happen, but if Pete wins the first two, then, so it's just hard for me to look right now at a Super Tuesday poll and say, well, this is really reflective of what's going on. But at the same time, it shows that we have a very fluid race, and that after the early primary states, at the moment, this thing isn't just going to be a wash for anyone.
So the way I look at it is this, is that it seems he's poised to seize upon success if he can grab it in Iowa and New Hampshire, right? So he's sitting there in this kind of number 2 level. That's where Obama was in South Carolina. Whenever in 2008, then he won Iowa and convinced all these people. So he's like, no, I could actually win. Then they flipped over to him. So it's not necessarily, look, he might not get 25% of the vote. He could get blown out. It just shows you that if he wants to be a viable alternative to Joe Biden, then if he has a good performance in those first 2 states, then it's possible he could win, Chrissy.
Yeah, I think in order to get that 25% that he needs, and in order to not only win Iowa, but New Hampshire and a lot of other Super Tuesday states, I think he needs to bring out the Gen Z and the millennial vote.
Yeah.
In this
He's banking on that,
sure. In the Morning Consult poll, it shows that Bernie Sanders polls way better with the generation, like with my generation of Gen Z, with the millennials, but then Biden, takes over when it comes to Gen X.
It's like 35 and above.
Yes, right. Gen X is where people vote, like they vote.
And boomers.
It is it's very inconsistent to hope and put all your prayers in one basket that Gen Z and millennial voters are going to show up. They will show out on Instagram. They'll put their stories on, and they will virtue signal about who you should vote for.
Yeah.
But getting them out to actually vote is going to be the difficult part for Sanders.
Really
yeah, well, this is interesting. They have the breakdown by race as well. And I mean, it's consistent with other things we've seen. But part of why Sanders is doing so well on Super Tuesday and holding his own is because of his strength with Hispanic voters. And you have California and Texas both going on Super Tuesday. So he's beating Joe Biden 36-24 among Hispanic voters. And that has been a much under-discussed part and dynamic of this primary, and it's going to be super important once you come to Super Tuesday.
Look, definitely under discussed, but what you guys know, because you've had him on numerous times, is that campaign has Chuck Rocha, who is one of the premier Latino strategists in the country. They have invested heavily on bringing real Latinos into that campaign that understand Latino voters, and how do we connect with them? And that's an impressive thing that they've been able to do. So, again, it goes back to turning Latino voters. When you look at some of the races in southern and the Central Valley of California, have challenges in turning out to vote. So just like young people, you have to actually turn out those Latino voters. And Bernie is relying on a little bit of a unique strategy. Instead of field organizers that are massive expense on the payroll, they're relying on a lot of volunteers and saying our volunteers are going to be the energy that turns out these people in Iowa and other states. That's a big test.
It's a very different model.
That is what Barack Obama did in a lot of ways. Is they were the trailblazers in terms of sort of empowering this grassroots enthusiasm. They had their own social media channels. I mean, a lot of people of my generation got into politics and phone banked and knocked doors and organized for the very first time on that campaign. And there's some echoes of that here. I also wanted, though, to bring up a little special moment that Joe Biden had on the campaign trail that's getting a lot of attention. A voter asked him about healthcare and about Obamacare specifically. Apparently, his dad lost his health insurance under Obamacare because premiums went up. He asked Joe Biden if he had been lied to. Let's take a listen to the response.
There's two ways people know when something is important. One, when it's so clear when it's passed that everybody understands it, and no one did understand Obamacare, including the way it was rolled out, and the gentleman's right. He said you could keep your doctor if you wanted to, and you couldn't keep your doctor if you wanted to necessarily. He's dead right about that.
So we didn't really understand it, Chrissy.
Yeah.
That's the response.
Yeah.
Not great.
We tried to tell you, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I actually think that the biggest takeaway, everybody on Twitter right now is saying, oh, we didn't understand it, we didn't understand it. But I actually think the biggest admission that Joe Biden made was that, if it was a lie. If you wanted to keep your doctor, you can't keep your doctor. And I find it very interesting.
And the premiums didn't go down.
Yeah,
Deductibles didn't
absolutely.
Go down. Nothing.
And I think that it's just so funny that he is so willing to admit that it's such a flawed program, yet he's campaigning on expanding it. And expanding that legislation is not going to stop the inherent problems of it.
And it's also just very counter, Andrew, to the whole Obama legacy was great, and I'm running to expand it. I mean, it's just there's never been any real reckoning with the fact that Obamacare was a disaster, that the economy that was left under President Obama was so fundamentally hollowed out that it led to the election of Donald Trump. And you can shout numbers at me all you want about coverage and whatever, but the fact that most people pay more for health care than they did before Obamacare.
Well, first of all, this clip cut off at 40 seconds.
Sure.
I would like to see the full clip, the full exchange, because we do see Joe Biden get cut off there. That being said, I am not going to agree with you on Obamacare. I think that the challenge with Obamacare is it was about coverage and not cost, right? This was about getting more people coverage. There was nothing about affordability. That being said, I have used Obamacare year in and year out through my business. Yes, am I paying more in premiums? Absolutely. Do I think that we need to I don't even want to expand. Do we need to move in a different direction? Absolutely. But at the same time, 20 plus more million people had health care. Pre-existing conditions were no more. I mean, these are important things to acknowledge.
There are. You just said it's not affordable. It's called the Affordable Care Act.
But here's my thing with it.
Yeah.
Here's my thing with it. I think your analysis is absolutely correct. I would absolutely take Obamacare over what we had before Obamacare. The expansion of coverage, those things were important and they mattered. It was a step forward, no doubt. Why did they not actually address affordability? Because instead of doing that, they brought all the industry into the room and said, we're going to give you these goodies, we're going to give you all these cuts, and we're not going to do anything real to constrain costs. And so because they tried to work with the industry rather than be adversarial, that's why we ended up with the mess that we have.
I would absolutely agree with that. And at the same time, so now I don't agree with where Joe Biden is on health care right now, right? Because what do we and Amy Klobuchar and Pete Buttigieg, what do we think that the insurance industry, when we knock off Donald Trump, they're going to open the door and say, all right, no problem, we're going to approve the public option. Great, here we go. Well, guess what? The Partnership for Americans' Healthcare Future right now is running millions of dollars of ads, not against Medicare for All this week, but against the public option. So my belief is if that we want to end up with the public option, well, we need to fight for something more like Medicare for All, so then we actually have negotiating power. If you walk into the room and say, hey guys, I want the public option, those insurers are going to say, they're going to fight with billions of dollars, at least millions, and then we may end up where we are right now.
Well, that's exactly it. That's the fantasy, is that the public option is so realistic and so doable and so easy, and the insurance industry is going to go right along. No. You're either willing to fight this industry tooth and nail, or you're not. It's really that simple. And so the Pete approach, the Amy approach, oh, we're going to work with them, oh, this is more. No, it's not. You're going to have to fight for it. You're going to have to be willing to lay all of your political capital on the line for something different. And if we're going to do that, if we're going to get something different, we may as well actually get the thing that we want that would cover all Americans.
The main caution is going to be this, is that you're going to, what happened with Joe Biden, which is that the last time that a Democratic president put all of his political capital on the line and promised the American people that their health care is going to be better and that they are going to pay less, it was a straight up lie. And so look, I agree. I think the healthcare industry is horrific. I think what's happening is right now is terrible, but there's a reason, Chrissy, I think people have good reason to doubt these Democratic politicians, especially Joe Biden, whenever they tell you that your healthcare is going to get better, because it has not happened.
I don't disagree with your premise, Andrew, that, Obamacare, I think it was completely accurate. Obamacare was more about getting more people covered than it was about the cost of it. But the cost really matters to people. And people know that with Medicare for All, that the cost of it is going to go up in order to, it's going to be paid through their taxes.
Well, the promise is that the cost will go down. That's not true. The promise is the cost will go down.
The cost will be zero. You will have to pay more in taxes for a lot of people, but the net benefit is way more. So to describe it as cost going up is incredible. It's inaccurate.
Let me tell you, I pay $860 a month for two 30-year-olds.
Yeah,
that's unheard of.
It's
crazy.
If you're going to tell me, and guess what? Then I still deal with the copays and the deductibles, and then I still deal with the people on the phone saying this wasn't covered. If I had to pay $860 a month more in taxes to not deal with the other BS, so be it. But I don't think that's actually. And guess what? I'm fortunate enough to be able to afford that. If my taxes go towards those people that right now are being put at risk of dying by the insurance companies, I would love to help them out so they can get the care they deserve.
Well, we're not going to solve healthcare today, but thank you guys. Appreciate
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you both.
Tomorrow on Rising, a former Google executive. He explains how he was pushed out for trying to prioritize human rights over the company's own bottom line.
That is an interesting one. Also, journalist Hannah Trudeau explains why while Obama world hates Bernie, they have no idea what to do to stop him. Thank you guys always for watching. Have a great day. We'll see you back here tomorrow.